Post game now for Auburn's win over Georgia. 82-70. Little T is down at the scene and 29-24 at the half. Close until the very end, Little T. This was sloppy to start with shooting wise, but I'll just go TGIJ. Thank God it's Johni, man. He had a game, a career day for him.
Yeah, he did. It was another, like you said, iffy shooting performance, pretty low scoring for the majority of the first half, but it was a game that Johni Broome just took over, something that we all know that he's capable of doing, but he had 31 points, 14 rebounds, and a heck of a performance for the National Player of the Year candidate tonight.
Yeah, puts a lot of pressure on Cooper Flag tonight on the national stage when he goes against Illinois at Madison Square Garden. If he has a subpar game, Janai rarely missed in the second half. He had 12.6 rebounds at the half. He ends up with 31 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 of 3 from three land. There was a stretch in the game that he was spinning and making every move possible. Just a dynamic performance. You just sort of wish it had been in prime time at Madison Square Garden in New York City for his chance to be National Player of the Year, the stage that Cooper will get tonight. But more importantly is Janai's on the number 1 team in the country, and they beat a desperate Georgia team. Hot start, then some sloppy play, sloppy shooting from both teams. And it felt like Georgia drugged them at least in the first half, and then sort of a part of the second half into their kind of game. Auburn didn't play their A game at all, and other than Janai, there was a lot of struggling going on out there scoring the basketball.
There was, and early foul trouble was something that was a little bit concerning. You saw Chaney and Denver both on the bench for a big chunk of the second half. Denver ended the game with 4 fouls. Dillon ended the game with 4 fouls. Chaney ended the game with 4 fouls. So you saw a little more of Jimmy Hudson than you typically would. But I said it after last game, and I'll say it again, was not the prettiest game in the world, but a win's a win. And, they still sit atop the SEC in terms of the regular season title race.
Yeah, by a lot. NH3425, that game was drunk. War damn, though. Pretty great for Janai today. Great doesn't describe it. You build statues after games like that. SEC officials inconsistent. Jeff says refs go down again at War damn Eagle. Hashtag #1 coming. People talking about Player of the Year. I do think there is building momentum for Johni Broome, mainly because of the competition they're playing. I know Georgia is outside of the bubble right now, but they have wins over Kentucky. They beat St. John's, who is trending really well, very popular right now. So even a down Georgia team for Janai to have a game like this, I think it resonates. And, Illinois is a good opponent tonight for Duke. Other than that, they don't get a ton of these. And I think if you're voting, and I happen to vote on this, United States Basketball Writers at USBWA, I will factor in competition. And Johni Broome will get my vote because he's played tough for competition. And if you're close, I'm going to go to the guy who played tough for competition. That's Johni Broome. It's got to factor in at some point, right, T?
I agree. And something else that a lot of people are talking about is the age difference between the two. Obviously, Cooper Flag is a true freshman, and I believe he also reclassified. So a guy that should be a senior in high school right now. But I agree in terms of the level of competition you're playing. In some of the major categories, Janai still leads. He has better statistics than Cooper Flag does. And then when you add into that the fact that he's playing, Auburn's strength of schedule, according to Ken Palm, is #1 in the country. Duke's is somewhere in the high 50s. And Evan Maya does a player ranking system, posted 2 different player rankings, and it's basically just player efficiency rankings based on statistics. And in one of the rankings, strength of competition is taken into consideration. Johni Broome sits atop those rankings. In one of the other rankings, strength of competition is not taken into consideration, and Johni Broome is still ranked first in the country. So that was something that stood out to me because yes, what Cooper Flag has done is extremely impressive, and there's no denying that. But when you look at the statistics and the impact that players have, on their respective team, all fingers point to Johni Broome in terms of the best player in college basketball.
Aaron says every team wants to bring it against the number one team. Auburn gets everyone's best. Randy backs that up. Auburn's going to get everyone's best game the rest of the way out. Your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously, when you're the number one team in the country, home or away, that target's on your back a little bit.
Yeah, I agree, and we've seen that. And on top of getting opponents' best, Auburn's also had, a number of games that they haven't looked their best. But, that's something that comes with the territory. And I think that's something that Bruce is emphasizing to his team ahead of these games is the fact that there are a number of SEC teams that are on the bubble, and they're fighting for a spot to play in the NCAA tournament. And what better, could you add to your resume than beating the number one team in the country? So I think that's something that he's using as motivation to keep this team, on their toes. Don't overlook anyone, which you can't do to begin with within the SEC because of how elite the competition is. But everyone's coming for your throat because at the end of the day, a win over the number one team in the country, especially on their home court, is going to be something that boosts the resumes of any team in the country.
Bailey said Miles had to get it to Janai late to get that new career high. He's got 31. That's his career high at Auburn, which he got today. 32 at Moorhead in the OVC championship game against Murray back in the day before he came to Auburn. So it was his Auburn career high today, not quite Janai's career high altogether. I would say this about Auburn moving forward, T, a little comment on this. 25 wins now. That's 6 25-win seasons in the last 8 years for Bruce Pearl. Before Bruce, Auburn had one 25-win season. So one time before Bruce, since Bruce, I don't want to break it down biblical, but Old Testament 1 25-win season, New Testament Bruce Pearl, 6 in 8 years. That's pretty damn impressive.
It is. And the Coach of the Year, National Coach of the Year watch list was announced, I believe it was yesterday, Friday afternoon, and Bruce, along with, a number of other SEC coaches were on it. And I think that is very well deserved. I don't know that anyone would disagree with his name being on that list. And when you look at stats like what you just brought up in terms of what Auburn looked like prior to his arrival and then the accomplishments that we've seen since, I mean, he has worked wonders for the Auburn basketball program.
I don't know if you noticed or not. Where was Georgia when they came in the quad rankings? Is it the quad 2 win for Auburn? I
I
would
believe
imagine.
so.
Yeah, I think so too. No way they dropped to a quad 3. My favorite play of the game was the Dylan block, the outlet pass full court to Chad Baker Mazzara, who touched it to Janai for the bucket. I know you were there for that one. That was a good one. When you saw that happen, just explain your joy on that play and maybe anything else you liked about this game.
Yeah, that was definitely one. That was a massive crowd pop here in Neville Arena. Did that occur right after the little tie up between
Oh yeah.
Denver? Okay, then I will go with that because things were getting testy. The game was getting a little bit heated, and I think that was a good boost of not confidence, but a good energy boost, a good positive energy boost for this team because things looked to be getting a little bit out of control. There were a few times throughout the game where they were sloppy passing the ball again, which we've seen happen at times throughout a couple games this season. But one thing that I think you do have to take into consideration is the fact that Georgia didn't play a midweek game this week. They hadn't played since last Saturday. So, their legs are going to be a little more fresh than Auburn's, who had their bye very early on in the conference, in their conference schedule. So there were a few things that didn't look great. But something that Brad Law said on, I believe, an episode of Village Vice recently, which I agree with, is the fact that because we've seen this team play so good, because they're the number one team in the country, when they don't go out and look elite for 40 minutes of every game, people will start to, wonder if they should be concerned. But the expectations are so high for this team. And I really do think at this point, just keep winning games, keep stay healthy, most importantly, keep winning games, and then you'll see where you end up in terms of NCAA seeding, which right now they're projected to be the number one overall seed. One thing that I do think needs to get better as the tournament approaches is free throw shooting. At the end of the game, Auburn shot 79% from the free throw line, but there are some guys that are pretty consistently missing free throws, and that can prove to cause detriment to teams when you're in a close game in a one-loss elimination tournament like the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, they've got 5 guys that shoot 82% or better, but sometimes Janai's not one of those guys. Dylan's not one of those guys. Other than that, everyone else they seem to roll out there really a good free throw shooter. It's just those 2 big guys got to get better. I feel like
Yeah,
Johni, if money's on the line, I feel like Johni would make it. He does everything else so great. Not so much with Dylan. I worry a little bit
yeah.
about him
Poor
if
guy.
it's in a rough situation here. Just real quick on the box score. Obviously, Johni with 31. Denver was next with 17 points today. Chad Baker was only 3 of 10 shooting, but he still got 11 points out there. Miles Kelly was 3 of 9 shooting. He got 11. Those were your double figure guys for Auburn as they win the basketball game 82-70 over Georgia. Next up for them, a Wednesday game, right?
Yes, they host Ole Miss next week, and that will be they have a 3-game home stretch. Obviously, hosted on Saturday or on Wednesday against tonight,
Yep.
and then after the Ole Miss game, they will travel to Lexington a week from today to play Kentucky, and then that's then we're nearing the end of the SEC. We're nearing the end of conference play.
Yeah, the countdown is on as we watch magic numbers for Auburn, 2-game lead with 4 to play now. And we'll see how everybody else plays out today. So we'll start getting a clinched number for Auburn on that SEC regular season championship. I'm in Tuscaloosa, dogfight going on, Kentucky, Alabama first half. We'll be back live post game for that coming up. Thank you for being here with our Auburn post game. Taylor down at Neville today. She'll rejoin me for the Alabama post game coming up in about an hour and 15 minutes. Set your alerts. Little T, be careful. Final thought. Game ball.
Johni Broome. That was.
Can I interest you in a Johni Broome game ball?
Yes. I think that it would be a unanimous Johni Broome game ball. That was a National Player of the Year performance.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, a couple of highlights that'll be on SportsCenter tonight, no doubt. All right, that's our post-game show. Auburn's a winner again, 25 wins on the season, 2 losses, and they are getting ready for, at some point in the next couple of games, to clinch the SEC regular season championship. We'll be back after Bama and Kentucky with another report. Thanks for watching us. This is the Basketball Show.